We're joined by the ABC's technology and games editor, Nick Ross. Nick, welcome. Can you believe it's got worse?
Not really. It's 77 million's a lot, and adding another 25 million really ain't good.
But I spoke to you a week or so ago when the PlayStation thing happened. Has there actually been any instances since then of the personal information being fraudulently used?
Well, this is a problem. I mean, 2 days after all the news broke, we had a big report of a PSN user who actually suffered from credit card fraud. And you initially you want to say, oh, well, it was caused by the PSN thing. But really, linking the two is going to be almost impossible because credit card fraud happens all the time. In this case, the guy who got his credit card information used was paying for flights domestically, internally within Australia. So unless there's a huge Australian element to the PSN hacking thing, it's a bit unlikely, I think, that it was related.
Yeah, because when I spoke to you previously, you seemed to be of a mind that maybe this was to do with a young guy who was angry that Sony had shut him down because he was trying to do something allegedly illegal, rather than an organisation going into Sony to steal all this information to use fraudulently.
Yes, well, at the time we were saying that the background of this was that Sony had been persecuting. We say that from the hacking community's point of view. A guy called George Hotz, who hacked the PlayStation so that it did things that the PlayStation wasn't designed to do. And Sony went completely ballistic at him and sued him really quite heavily off the back of it. And that upset a lot of the hacking community. The thing is, though, over the past week or so, we've had hacking communities, some are suggesting that they might know people who did it, but really it's still not clear whether it was a hacking community or an outright criminal community. Yeah. And if it's criminals that did it, then they're being wanted by the FBI and all kinds of global law enforcement. So suddenly selling a load of credit card information is going to be very, very obvious. So they'll probably be laying low whoever it is right now while the heat's still up there.
So it's still not clear at this stage if it is actually someone who's got some criminal organisation who's gone in there to go and steal all this information to use it fraudulently, or someone who's just doing it to show Sony that it's vulnerable.
No, it's not, and we might never know. And the thing is, the fallout from this is going to be long-term rather than short-term.
Okay, so if this information has been obtained by a criminal organisation, is it easy to sell it online?
Yes, quite simply. There's actually quite a few online trading forums for this sort of information, and credit card numbers and personal data can go for as little as a few cents for hundreds of different numbers. So it wouldn't be too surprising if some of this started appearing there, but I doubt it will happen straight away.
Right.
I mean, they're quite easy to monitor.
Just explain for us how this network that's been we've heard about today that's been breached is different from the PlayStation network.
Yeah, PlayStation network is where people who play PlayStation games online all connect to each other using their PlayStations. Sony Online Entertainment is this new network, which is not just on PlayStation, and it's where these massive multiplayer online games are played, and that's not just on the PlayStation network. That'll be PC gamers as well.
Right. And so what's your recommendation today to people who are on that network?
Well, some good news that's come out is that Sony have said that the passwords that were taken weren't actually in plain text like everyone initially thought. What's been discovered is that they were hashed passwords. Now, what that means is when you set up your account, you type in you log in, you type in your password on your computer, but it's then slightly encrypted with an algorithm on your computer, and so the only information stored on the Sony servers is actually a kind of encrypted version. Now, it's not full encryption, but it's a lot harder to crack. If God forbid, the hackers got their hands on Sony's encryption algorithm, then there'd be real trouble here. Right. But that's very unlikely that they'll go for two huge hacks like that, really.
Yeah. So is that the case only with the online entertainment network?
That's for both of them.
For both of them,
okay. Now it's being reported. But still, at the end of the day, having your password is now a lot more secure than we thought it was, but it's still the the identity theft that's the real problem here, I think.
And do you think it was incumbent upon Sony to fully encrypt these passwords? What do you think about the fact that it was only partially encrypted?
Well, I think it's hard to crucify them for that, frankly, because just about every organisation out there, it's hard to say if most use the hash system or the full encryption system, but an awful lot use hash, and a great many use no encryption at all. Yeah. I mean, there's even, God forbid, some sites on the ABC if you sign up for that, where we've had passwords that have been stored in plain text, and I think that's been addressed now. Yeah. You hope so. But basically, yes, there could be some good news coming out of all this in the fact that the whole world is now looking at their online security and encryption policies on their passwords and personal information. And so after all this kind of dies down, hopefully we'll be in a much more secure online world.
Were you a subscriber to the Online Entertainment Network?
I wasn't on the Online Entertainment Network, but I did sign up for a PSN account.
Right.
But, so I'm very happy that my password's not as obvious as it was. I'll probably use that in a few places, although I shouldn't have said that on TV.
Okay, and so the lesson, one of the main lessons is if you've got a couple of accounts, well, everyone's got a lot of people have a couple of accounts, do not have the same password.
Well, we can say that as much as we want, really, can't we? But at the end of the day, we've got to trust. We've got to trust these companies. I mean, I have several different passwords that I use for companies I trust to a certain degree, but if Sony can't be trusted, I'm suddenly doubting the trust on or across a whole heap of others. And while some security experts, including at the ABC again, insist on you changing your password every month, what that can do is backfire as well, with people just forgetting it so often that they write it down and stick it on a post-it on their monitor, making it unsecure as well. So there's no ideal solution here.
Okay. Thanks for talking to us anyways, Nick Ross.